So I want to start today by asking you a question.
Okay.
And it sounds, incredibly simple on the surface, maybe even a little bit cliche.
The big ones usually do.
They do. But if you actually try to answer it, I honestly answer it, it gets slippery really fast. The question is, who are you?
Ah, the classic.
It is. But here's the twist I want to put on it for today. When you ask yourself that question in your head, who am I? Who's actually speaking? And maybe more importantly, who is listening to the answer?
That distinction right there, that's everything. That's the cliff edge where you start to really understand consciousness.
How do you mean?
Well, we tend to operate as if we're this monolith, a single solid self. But the second you pay attention, really pay attention to your thoughts, you realize there's a duality, there's a narrator, and there's an observer.
Exactly. And that's the core of what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into this idea of the inner dialogue, that constant, relentless stream of thought that starts the second you wake up.
And often refuses to shut off when you're trying to sleep.
Yes. And it dictates so much. I mean, our source material for today argues that this inner voice isn't really us.
Right. It's more of a construct. It's this messy mix of memories, media, social conditioning.
Things your parents said 30 years ago.
Exactly. Things you heard on the news this morning. It's a very, very crowded room in there.
And the text we're looking at, it pulls from Toltec wisdom traditions, as a great term for this, popularized by Don Miguel Ruiz, the metote.
The metote, I love that word. It translates roughly to a marketplace.
Oh, marketplace.
Yeah. Imagine walking through a crowded, chaotic market where 1,000 merchants are all shouting at you at the same time.
Okay.
No one is listening to anyone else. They're just projecting. The text argues that this is a pretty accurate map of the average human mind. It's not a monologue, it's a riot.
That is a terrifyingly accurate image. You're trying to focus on one thing, but one merchant is shouting about laundry, another about some awkward thing you said in 2014.
And another is shouting about politics or the news. It's just noise.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how to bring some order to that marketplace.
To move from being a victim of the noise to...
Well, to mastering it.
Yeah.
And the text lays out a path with 3 pillars: stillness, focus, and curation.
Right. The shift from having the voice run the show to you choosing the dialogue. So let's start with the nature of the noise itself. The source makes this point that feels obvious, but is actually huge. We think in language.
It's a profound limitation. If you think about it, you're not just having abstract thoughts, you're hearing sentences, even if there's no actual sound.
And when you do that who am I exercise, the text says the answers that pop up are these automatic or prepackaged labels.
Almost robotic. I am a father. I am an employee.
I'm a student. Nouns. Roles.
And the text argues these pop up automatically because we've been conditioned to confuse ourselves with our function.
So the mitote isn't just random noise. It's basically the sum total of our programming. Precisely. It's the internalization of culture, advertising, teachers. And here's the kicker. Realizing this is happening. That takes maybe 5 minutes of quiet observation. But learning to step out of that script, that's the life's work.
There's this part in the source material that really hit home for me. It's the grocery store observation.
Oh, yeah.
The author talks about just looking around a grocery store and noticing that almost everyone is on their phone or listening to music or talking to someone.
And our immediate reaction culturally is to judge that, right? Oh, look at everyone addicted to their screens.
Right, zombies with smartphones. But the source takes a completely different angle, a much more empathetic one.
It does. It says silence has become overwhelming for us. Our minds are so flooded all the time, news, social media ads, that the inner chatterbox is just overloaded.
So when people are scrolling through their feed in line, they aren't just being distracted.
They're coping. They're using their phones as a coping mechanism.
That's such a shift in perspective.
It is. If you've never been taught how to just sit alone with your own mind, silence feels dangerous. The moment there's a gap in the external noise, the internal noise rushes in. I need dog food. What about that email? What about the past? It never, ever stops.
We're carrying the entire world in our pockets. It's like escaping into a phone isn't a weakness. It's just a strategy for surviving the noise because we haven't learned another way.
Exactly. And that brings us perfectly to the first pillar of mastering this dialogue. If we want to stop using the phone as a pacifier, we have to learn to be still.
Okay, let's unpack this because I usually have a bone to pick with meditation.
I think I know where you're going with this.
People say meditate, and my brain just hears, okay, sit there and think of absolutely nothing. And I can't do it. My brain is a hamster wheel.
And you are not alone. That's the #1 reason people quit. The source material corrects this right away. It says, basically, thinking of nothing is not possible. The mind doesn't just shut off.
Thank goodness. Because if the goal is 0 thoughts, I fail in, like, 3 seconds.
The mind produces thoughts. That's its job, just like the heart pumps blood. So the goal of stillness isn't emptiness, it's focus. Or, more specifically, non-reaction.
Walk me through the difference there.
It's not about being empty, it's about having an anchor. You pick one thing, your breath, a sound, a spot on the floor. And the goal isn't to stop thoughts from coming, because they will, but to change how you respond when they do.
The text had that great example about an itch.
Yes, it's so practical. You're meditating, your knee itches, the amateur fights it. I shouldn't itch, I must be zen. They create tension.
But the source says, if your knee itches, just scratch it. And then, and this is the key part, return.
That's the whole game right there. Return, you remember a calendar appointment, you don't spiral into stress about it, you just say, okay, and you return to the breath.
No drama, no rabbit holes.
No drama, no rabbit holes. It's just like doing reps at the gym. The source quotes Lao Tzu. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. The practice isn't having a perfect mind. It's the practice of returning. Every single time you pull your attention back, that's a rep.
So scratching the itch isn't a failure, it's just part of the rep.
Exactly. You're proving to yourself that you don't have to chase every thought that runs across the screen. You have agency.
And this idea of not reacting flows into how the text talks about prayer too, which was another moment where I had to stop and rethink my definitions.
It's a beautiful distinction. We often think of prayer as speaking, as asking, please give me this.
Pleading, yeah.
But this author views prayer primarily as listening.
As becoming receptive.
Right. If you believe wisdom or the universe is present, then silence is how you hear it. It's sitting in nature, feeling the wind.
And there's that fitness analogy again. The text says answers rarely arrive with a thunderclap. It's like going to the gym. You don't see changes in the mirror overnight.
But eventually, you just realize you're stronger.
Exactly. The answers come softly, over time. But you have to be quiet enough to hear them.
Which is why stillness is the prerequisite. It clears the static.
Okay, so we have stillness, learning not to react. Now we get to the second pillar, active focus. And the tool for this is writing.
This is where we sort of move from defense to offense. The source describes writing as meditation with intention.
Which is interesting because I think most people see writing as a chore. How does it work as a tool for the mind?
Well, think about how fast your thoughts are. They're lightning fast, they're chaotic. You can't write that fast.
True.
Writing forces you to slow down. It forces the mind to organize itself into a linear structure.
The text talks about using it for root cause analysis.
Yeah, so instead of just falling down some random rabbit hole, you choose which hole to explore. You can trace a thought backward. You can actually ask, why do I believe this? Or, where did I learn this behavior?
Because you're basically interviewing yourself on paper.
You are turning noise into signal. And that leads to probably the most powerful visual in the entire text. The battery analogy.
Oh, I love this one. It's so clear. So you have a battery.
Right. Scenario A, you have one battery, and you're trying to power 10 different cars at the same time.
No surprise, none of them run well.
Exactly. They sputter, they stall. That's scattered thinking. You're worrying about the past, stressing about the future, checking your phone. You're burning energy, but nothing's moving forward.
But in scenario B, you take that exact same battery.
Same amount of energy.
And you hook it up to just one car.
And it runs like a dream. Strong, efficient. That's focus. The source says, scattered thoughts create weak effort. Focused thought creates power.
And joy, it says. There's a joy in that kind of effectiveness.
There is. Focus isn't restriction, it's strength. It's the strength to actually go somewhere.
So we have stillness to quiet the noise and focus to direct the energy. But there's a third pillar, and this one might be the most critical for the long term. Curation.
Choosing what lives inside your head. This goes right back to that idea of the metope being a construct. It's built from what we absorb. So it's simple logic. If you want a better inner dialogue, you have to look at what you're consuming.
Input equals output.
Precisely. It's a diet of the mind. The source lists the inputs. Media, conversations, beliefs. If you feed your mind gossip and fear and endless doom scrolling, what's your inner voice going to sound like?
The nervous wreck. It's going to sound like gossip and fear.
But if you feed it philosophy, sacred texts, silence, beauty, that becomes the voice.
The author talks about becoming an intentional vessel. We can't be empty, but we can choose what fills us up.
And this part is key. They say they distance themselves from noise not out of judgment, but out of protection.
That's a really healthy way to frame it. It's not about being superior, it's about protecting the machinery of your own mind.
Because whatever enters repeatedly becomes conditioning, and conditioning becomes that inner voice. If you want to master the dialogue, you have to be the gatekeeper.
It's funny, we're so careful about what we eat, right? We check labels, count calories, but we'll let any random piece of junk content just walk right into our brains.
And unlike bad food, which your body eventually gets rid of, a toxic idea can live in your head rent-free for decades.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
But also empowering. We can change the diet. Now, before we wrap, the source offers a final caution, and this is so important.
Yes. The trap of good information.
Yeah.
There's a danger even in consuming good things, wisdom, philosophy, even deep dives like this.
What's the danger? Isn't wisdom always good?
The danger is regurgitation. The goal isn't to memorize a bunch of wise quotes so you can sound smart at a dinner party.
Look at me, I'm so enlightened.
Exactly. That's just swapping one form of conditioning for another. You're just replacing pop culture quotes with philosopher quotes. The mechanism hasn't changed.
So what's the goal then?
To use these new perspectives as tools, to see truth more clearly for yourself. You have to keep what the text calls a quiet inner alarm active. You need discernment.
It's about digestion, not just collection.
Right. And to remember that life changes. What was true for you last year might not be true today. Your inner dialogue has to stay flexible and humble.
Flexible, awake, and humble. I like that. So let's recap the 3 pillars. To master that inner dialogue, the roadmap from our text is 1. Learn to be still.
Don't react to every thought, just return.
2. Learn to focus. Be the battery that powers 1 car, not 10.
Use writing to direct your thoughts.
And 3. Choose what you allow inside. Curate your mental diet because it will become your inner voice.
And the promise is that if you do this, the chatter becomes clarity, the noise becomes guidance, and that voice within becomes a friend instead of a storm.
A beautiful place to land.
Uh,
But before we go, you always have a final thought for us to chew on. What's the provocation for today?
well, I want to go back to that very first question you asked.
Who are you?
Uh-huh. We talked about how the automatic answers are always labels: father, employee, political affiliation, even our own names. Those are the costumes.
The programming.
Right. So here's the question for you to take with you. If you stripped all of that away, the job, the family role, the history, all of it, and you just sat in total absolute silence, is the voice that remains a stranger to you, or is it a friend?